Hello, you are listening to Cheat Sheet, with the podcast that cuts through the shouting, the spin, to bring you the news you need to know in under 10 minutes. I'm Sophy Ridge.
And I'm Wilfred Frost. It's Monday, the 19th of January, and here are the stories making headlines.
So Donald Trump, of course, threatening tariffs on anyone who opposes him taking over Greenland. Will there be a real-life Love Actually moment with the UK Prime Minister taking on the US President?
I'm interested you flagged that because you don't like that movie.
I don't, but I feel like it's enough in public consciousness to use it.
I was going to reference it. We'll talk about that more in a second. A second Conservative MP in the space of a week has defected to Reform.
And we've got a case brought by Prince Harry and some other well-known individuals as well. It's due to get underway in the High Court later.
But we start with a breaking story from late last night. Tragic story of a high-speed train collision between two trains in Spain. At least 21 people have been killed. More than 100 people have been injured. It's in southern Spain. The back end of one of the carriages came off and then slammed into a train moving in a different direction. It happened in Ademuz, near Cordoba, traveling from Malaga to Madrid.
Yeah, so 500 passengers around on this train. It was only 10 minutes into his journey, and so the accident occurred, as you said, yesterday evening. And we've got a bit of reaction to it from the Transport Secretary from Spain. He said that the situation, in his words, is extremely strange because the vehicle went off course on a straight piece of track, a track that had been recently refurbished. So it was a pretty new piece of track last year as well. The train itself was only 4 years old, so they're clearly trying to get to grips with what on earth caused this. So something quite unusual is happening today because the Prime Minister is clearing the diary. He is giving a press conference this morning at Downing Street, and it's expected to be around Donald Trump's threat to impose tariffs on anybody who opposes his plan to take over Greenland. And it's a crunch moment, I guess, for Keir Starmer, because up until now, he's been so careful, so delicate to keep Donald Trump on side, to, I guess, maximise any leverage he has with the US president. We know, of course, how capricious Donald Trump can be. And this is a moment when that could be ripped up. Because what does he do now as a NATO country, an ally of Denmark, in the threat of Donald Trump saying that he is prepared to take over Greenland?
And so far, he has been united with his EU allies and clearly is in terms of the gist of all of this. The EU is clearly preparing counter tariffs. That's been clearly trailed over the course of late on Sunday. They have more strength to do that as a far greater collective economy and trading partner of the United States than we do on our own. There's not much economically we can do that will really hurt the US on trade. What we can hurt them on, and it seems even after this extraordinary step from President Trump, inconceivable that we would do this, is the way we allow America to use the UK for military bases, including specifically refueling of nuclear submarines, which I think is pretty crucial to them. I can't imagine we'll go that far. And so that's just a really fascinating snapshot where it is slightly different, this speech from the Prime Minister today in Downing Street, than from the way the rest of the EU will react. Just one other point I'd note, though. This has, in the US, pushed a lot of Republicans to side against Donald Trump. You've seen this over the weekend, but from various high-profile people saying unequivocally we should not invade or threaten military action in Greenland. So he's got to be a bit more careful there as well. Fascinating one to watch. You referenced Love Actually moment. Does Keir Starmer step up to the plate? I mean, no jokes. Hugh Grant's phrase in Love Actually was, when a friend who is a bully is not a friend at all and bullies respond to strength. It made Hugh Grant in that movie as Prime Minister. Are we going to see a moment like that today?
That was very impressive.
Off the top of my head, by the way.
That was amazing.
Completely off the top of my head. God, it's a good movie.
It was excellent.
Oh, you like the movie?
No, the movie not. No. You're quoting a bit. You're quoting a bit, Will.
The big Westminster story of last week, of course, on Thursday, all of a sudden, Kemi Badenoch fires Robert Jenrick before he's able to defect to Reform, which he indeed does. hours later, it was teased then that this week would be a Labour person defecting over to Reform, but not so. Well, not yet, at least.
Yeah, I think,
Conservative MP, another Conservative MP first.
Well, I think not yet. I think that they are still effectively saying that they've got this Labour figure, notably not an MP, by the way, a Labour figure that they're expecting to defect to Reform. So I guess this could be happening, I think, was Tuesday, the day slated. But what they have had over, as you say, overnight, is Andrew Rosendale, the MP for Romford, the second sitting Conservative MP to join Reform. So that's two more MPs that they've got, which always matters in these things as well. Who is he? I think he is somebody who's a shadow minister, so that is, a bit of a problem. He's noted the Chagos Islands as one of the reasons that he felt he wanted to join a Reform, because they've got the strongest take on that. Kemi Badenoch has come out pretty brutally, I think it's fair to say, against Andrew Rosendale. The Conservatives, I think, feel particularly kind of aggrieved at this one, because at a time when there were various allegations about Andrew Rosendale, they said that they stood very firmly behind him. So I guess for them, they feel like it's a bit of a slap in the face. So she's come out to say that Reform's doing her, spring cleaning for her. Is there a tipping point where too many Conservative MPs are a problem for Reform? I think the answer to that is yes, frankly, because how can you position yourself as an anti-establishment party if you are basically accepting anyone from the old guys that people booted out last time? And I think that's why they've put this cut-off point. So they've said May the 7th, after May the 7th, they're not accepting anybody from the Conservative Party, MPs, councillors, etc., etc. And I think that perhaps is an acknowledgement that there is a tipping point at which this becomes more of a hindrance than a help.
As you said, the big difference here is it's two serving MPs. Clearly just changes the numbers in Parliament. So it's big wins in that regard for Reform. Compared to Robert Jones, I'd never even heard of Andrew Rosendale. So it's not as big a coup in any way. The other thing I'd just point at is look where their seats are. Newark, Romford, and look at the polling there. There's a lot of self-interest, I think, in changing your colours here, thinking ahead to the next election, as much as pure association with specific parties. So we mentioned that the government has to make this decision on the Chinese mega embassy by the 20th of January. That's tomorrow. They haven't made the decision yet. They were, we think, leaning towards approving it ahead of the Prime Minister's trip to China. There was reporting that the US was trying to change their minds on this before they made the decision last week. Here is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, speaking to me on Friday with his view, the US view. This is the most important member of Congress in the US. Would you rather they don't approve it?
Well, put it this way. I mean, that's a great location for an embassy. I wish the U.S. had taken that spot instead of China. I mean, there is some symbolism to that, and I think that's part of the concern, just from friends who, and I say this as constructive criticism to our friends here, but it does send a certain message. It seems that China would have such a prominent place and have such a, as they would call it, a mega embassy. I don't think that's a great development from our perspective.
I mean, he says it in such a polite way, but that's a pretty strong criticism.
It's a pretty clear what the US view is, and you couldn't make up the timing of all of this because, which we also discuss in the full interview, Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, has just gone to China and struck new trade deals. And I asked Speaker Johnson, how can you blame us for doing that sort of thing in the light of combative trade rhetoric? And you do raise that question. When does the pressure from the US on all of these sort of linked topics backfire? And oddly, I do just wonder whether now, slipped out as part of, don't look over here, I'm talking about understandably tariffs, a news story when everyone else is distracted, but also in light of, how are we meant to always rely on the US with this sort of action? So just the whole dynamic has changed. We've got one day left until they're supposedly meant to approve or disapprove this, or all eyes on that as much as everything else. By the way, the Speaker is here to address Parliament tomorrow. Supposedly happy, clappy, special relationship.
Oh my goodness.
250th anniversary of the 4th of July. The whole tone of that's just been turned on its head. I'm sure he's having to furiously rewrite his speech. I'm sure he's going to have to watch what the Prime Minister says today and respond to it. Extraordinary timing.
Big story for us today, of course, that we're watching Prince Harry in London for the trial for his third major court battle. He's accusing various newspaper groups of unlawful behaviour. And it's not just him, Elton John, Liz Hurley, various other celebrities as well. And they're accusing the publisher of the Daily Mail for breaching their privacy. The allegations range from phone hacking to payment of public officials. Paul Dacre, the longest-serving editor-in-chief, set to give evidence in the publisher's defence. He says the claims are all preposterous.
That does it for today's Cheat Sheet. Thanks so much for listening. If you've got a story or a topic that you want us to cover, please do get in touch. cheatsheet@sky.uk.